Everyone, it is both an honor and a calling to speak with you today on a topic that resonates deeply within the hearts of many, healing the soul of a woman. Many of the deepest wounds a woman carries are not immediately visible to the outside world. They do not always come with a physical mark or a dramatic story. Instead, they often exist quietly beneath the surface, woven into her thoughts, her choices, her silences. A woman can smile, show up, and take care of others, all while holding pain that has never been named, let alone healed. That is why the first and most vital step in healing the soul of a woman is to acknowledge the hidden wounds she may have carried for years. These wounds can take many forms. Some come from childhood, being told to stay small, to be quiet, to please others at the expense of her own truth. Others come from experiences of betrayal, rejection, abandonment, or abuse. And some come from more subtle but equally painful sources. The constant pressure to be perfect, the fear of not being enough, the exhaustion of being everything to everyone. These wounds can lead to self-doubt, burnout, and a persistent feeling of being disconnected from one's own identity. For many women, acknowledging these wounds feels frightening. Society often teaches women to suppress pain, to stay strong, to move on. Vulnerability can be mistaken for weakness, and there is a cultural tendency to reward women for enduring rather than for healing. As a result, a woman may bury her pain beneath layers of performance, productivity, or people, pleasing, unsure of how to begin the process of healing, or whether she even deserves to, but healing cannot happen without truth. To acknowledge a hidden wound is not to dwell on the past. It is to honor the reality of what has been endured. It is a brave and powerful act of self-respect. Naming the pain gives it form, and once it has form, it can be tended to. Whether that pain came from being unloved, unheard, underestimated, or unseen, acknowledging it allows a woman to reclaim the parts of her soul that were silenced. Acknowledgement also opens the door to empathy, both from others and from within. When a woman begins to see her pain not as a flaw but as a part of her human story, she can meet herself with compassion. This is often where true transformation begins. From this space of awareness and tenderness, she can begin to forgive, to release shame, and to learn new ways of relating to herself and the world. Ultimately, acknowledging hidden wounds is an invitation, not to relive the pain, but to release it. It is a step toward wholeness. It is a declaration that her story matters, that her healing is valid, and that she is worthy of peace. In naming what has hurt, a woman begins to write a new chapter, one that leads not only to survival, but to soul, deep restoration. Healing the soul of a woman requires more than time. It demands truth, and truth can only emerge when vulnerability and authenticity are embraced, not as weaknesses, but as pathways to freedom. In a world that often rewards women for being composed, agreeable, and self-sacrificing, the act of showing up as one's full, imperfect self is both revolutionary and necessary. Vulnerability and authenticity are not just emotional expressions. They are acts of courage that open the door to deep, lasting healing. Vulnerability is the willingness to be seen, fully and honestly. It is the decision to share our inner world, our fears, our hurts, our longings, even when we risk being misunderstood or rejected. For many women, this feels risky. From a young age, they are often taught to hold it together, to be strong, to suppress tears, and to smile through pain. Over time, these messages create a quiet kind of suffering, the belief that their real feelings are too much, or worse, not valid. But healing cannot coexist with denial. Only when a woman allows herself to feel what is true can she begin to untangle the roots of her pain. Authenticity is the companion to vulnerability. It is the practice of living in alignment with one's truth, values, and identity rather than performing for approval. An authentic woman is not one who has it all figured out. She is one who no longer hides behind masks. She listens to the voice within rather than the noise outside, and she gives herself permission to take up space, speak her truth, and live unapologetically. When a woman embraces vulnerability and authenticity, she begins to reclaim her power. She no longer silences herself to avoid conflict or criticism. She stops pretending everything is fine when it isn't. She learns to say, "This is where I am," without shame, and in doing so, she creates space for real connection with herself and with others. Because the more honest we are, the more deeply we can be seen, loved, and supported. Healing also requires grace during this process. Vulnerability can feel uncomfortable at first, especially when it exposes long, guarded wounds. But it is through that discomfort that healing flows. A woman who allows herself to break open also allows herself to be rebuilt. She learns that being real is more important than being perfect, and that her worth was never tied to how well she could hold it all together. Embracing vulnerability and authenticity is not a one-time decision. It is a daily choice. It is a practice of returning to the self again and again and saying, "I will no longer hide. I will no longer shrink. I will love myself enough to be honest. In this brave way of living, the soul finds rest. It finds restoration, and it finds the kind of peace that only truth can bring. Healing the soul of a woman is not a solitary journey. While personal reflection and inner work are essential, lasting healing often blossoms in the presence of others, specifically in spaces where a woman feels safe, supported, and truly seen. Creating supportive environments and nurturing sisterhood are vital steps in restoring what pain, isolation, and societal pressure may have damaged over time. When women gather in honest, non-judgmental community, something sacred happens. Shame loses its power, silence gives way to voice, and healing becomes collective. For generations, women have been taught to compete, compare, or conceal their struggles out of fear of being perceived as weak or inadequate. Many have grown used to putting on emotional armor in relationships, workplaces, or even within their own families. This culture of quiet endurance can leave women feeling deeply alone, even when surrounded by others. That is why intentional, supportive spaces matter. These are environments where women can bring their whole selves, the joy, the grief, the confusion, the questions, without fear of rejection or ridicule. Supportive spaces don't have to be large or formal. They can be found in a small circle of trusted friends, a women's group, a therapy session, a spiritual community, or even a conversation over tea where someone listens with their full heart. What defines these spaces is not structure, but spirit, a spirit of empathy, compassion, and mutual respect. In such environments, women realize they are not alone in their struggles. They hear stories that mirror their own and find comfort in the recognition that healing is a shared human experience, not a private burden. Sisterhood in its truest form is not about surface-level connection or curated perfection. It is about showing up for each other in the realness of life. It is about women holding space for one another without judgment, competition, or the need to fix. A sisterhood says, "I see you, I hear you, you're not alone." And those simple affirmations can be deeply transformative. They give women permission to exhale, to rest, and to believe in the possibility of healing. These relationships also offer accountability and encouragement. On days when a woman forgets her worth or loses her strength, a sister can remind her who she is. On days when the journey feels too hard, someone can walk beside her, not to carry her pain, but to lighten it with presence. In this way, healing becomes an exchange of light. Each woman contributes her own wisdom, her own lessons, her own resilience, and in doing so, helps to lift another. Creating supportive spaces and nurturing sisterhood is not just beneficial, it is essential. No one heals in isolation, and when women come together with open hearts, they do more than comfort each other. They begin to transform each other. Together, They create a healing ground where the soul can rest, grow, and thrive. In the warmth of sisterhood, a woman does not just find support, she finds her way home. In the fast pace of life, many women find themselves slowly drifting away from who they truly are. Responsibilities pile up: career, family, relationships, expectations, and somewhere along the way, the connection to self begins to fade. A woman may wake up one day feeling exhausted, emotionally distant, or even numb, not because she lacks strength, but because she has given so much of herself to everything and everyone else that she has forgotten to nurture her own soul. Reconnecting with the self is a vital part of healing, a return to the woman she was before the world told her who she had to be. This reconnection does not happen all at once. It begins in quiet, intentional moments. It starts when a woman gives herself permission to pause, to listen, and to feel. She begins asking questions she may have avoided for years. What do I truly want? What brings me peace? What dreams have I buried? At first, the answers may be unclear or even painful, but the process of asking is powerful in itself. It signals a shift, a choice to turn inward instead of outward for validation, fulfillment, and purpose. Reconnecting with the self also means learning to set boundaries, not just with others, but within. It involves breaking free from the internal narratives that say, "I'm not enough," or "I have to earn love." It means understanding that rest is not laziness, that saying no is not selfish, and that a woman's worth is not defined by her productivity or performance. As she begins to live with intention rather than obligation, she starts to feel more whole. This journey often requires solitude, which is different from loneliness. Solitude is sacred space. It is where a woman meets her true self again. It might be found in journaling, meditation, nature walks, or simply sitting in stillness without the noise of distractions. In that stillness, she hears the voice that has been waiting to speak, the voice of her intuition, her spirit, her truth. It is here that she remembers her essence, her passions, her voice, and her dreams. This is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who she has always been beneath the layers of life. Reconnection also includes caring for the body, the mind, and the spirit in a way that honors her whole being. It may look like prioritizing health, rediscovering creative outlets, or engaging in practices that inspire joy and meaning. These small acts of self-honoring are not luxuries. They are necessities. They are the fuel that supports her emotional, mental, and spiritual restoration. Ultimately, reconnecting with the self allows a woman to live from a place of authenticity and inner peace. She no longer seeks approval from the outside world because she has found acceptance within. She no longer fears being alone because she has become her own safe space. In reconnecting with herself, she begins to heal, not just temporarily but deeply. She reclaims her identity, her power, and her soul. And from this place, she rises, whole, grounded, and radiant.